Hello, my friends. How's everybody doing today? How's everybody's life? If you're new here, my name is Jo, and apparently I now sit on my porch and I talk about books. So if you're new here, hi, welcome, how are you? Today's video is going to be my October wrap-up. I got this new mic situation. Me and her are still getting to know each other, so you'll have to bear with me as I'm working through the kinks of the situation. If this sounds like shit, you will never see this, and I apologize in advance to future Jo for the emotional turmoil that it is going to cause to have to refilm this video. Let's move you over here. Hopefully that's better. Hopefully not worse. Okay, in the month of October, I read 12 things. I read 5 volumes of manga, 6 novels, and then one kind of novella length book. There's a water bottle back there. I'm gonna go get that. Okay. So the first book that I finished in the month of October was The Graveyard Book by Neil Gaiman. This is a story that is following pretty much a baby. He's a baby at the beginning of this book, but a baby who somehow escapes the murder of his entire family and makes his way to this graveyard in town where he is then adopted by ghosts who protect him from the person that has murdered his family, right? I really like this one. This is a book that's geared towards younger readers, and I could definitely feel that, though Gaiman's books tend to have this really dark, whimsical aspect to them that I feel like would appeal to adult readers as well. Even though it is a bit dark, I mean, we literally begin the story with the murder of our main character's entire family. I feel like the book is really charming and also really sweet in a way. It's like The Jungle Book, but with ghosts. So if you're looking for that sort of story, I personally love The Jungle Book. Obviously, it's one of my childhood favorites. Each chapter in the book is pretty much like a little story in which Bod, who is our main character, his name's Nobody Owens, but they call him Bod. Each chapter in the book is a kind of short story about Bod as he's growing up in this graveyard, and each little story has him learning something, meeting a new person, or something like that. It was overall really, really charming. I think that if you're looking for something that has the spooky vibes for fall, but is not super duper dark and serious and is more on the whimsical side, I think this is something that you would really enjoy. I liked it. I enjoyed it. I had fun doing it. We had a good time. Next, I read Iron Gold, which is book 4 in the Red Rising saga by Pierce Brown. This one's interesting for me because when I was going through and looking at video reviews of Iron Gold, so many booktubers that I saw were just absolutely shitting on Iron Gold, and I understand why, but I don't agree whatsoever. So because this is the start of the second part of Red Rising, I feel like a lot of people got bogged down in, number one, the new POVs that are introduced, and also a different tone. There's just a different tone to Iron Gold, as well as the fact that this book is really urban, whereas books 2 and 3 of the original Red Rising trilogy were really heavy on that space opera theme. I just really enjoyed it. I loved the new characters that are introduced, especially Lyria. I loved getting to see the aftermath of some of Darrow and the gang's actions from the first trilogy. So you get to see that even though Darrow is the hero of his own story, he may not be the hero of every single person's story. And also you get to see the complexity and the difficulties of rebuilding a society that was destroyed, and the society that was destroyed was so cemented in the world and in the people and in the culture, and you get to see just how this new society that we're building challenges those ideals and those cultural norms that were followed for forever, you know? I also really liked that we get to see a different side of Darrow. The light is changing again. We're just gonna go with it. I feel like Darrow in the first trilogy is not necessarily one note, but he's very aggressive in his actions. But in this, we have a 10-year time jump between the end of Morningstar and the beginning of Iron Gold, and you get to see how he's struggling to balance out aspects of himself. I really loved that. Ephraim is another POV that we get. He is a very depressed man. He is an alcoholic. He is also a thief. He's a character that I don't think a lot of people are going to like, but he's a character that I feel like is one of the most real characters that Pierce Brown has written throughout this series. There's a leaf. This just fell out of the tree. It has chosen me. Anyways, so Lysander is the other perspective that we get, and I liked his perspective as well. No surprise there. Through his perspective, we get kind of like the bigger picture of what's happening outside of where Darrow and the gang are doing their business. I think that if you go into this expecting the original trilogy, you will be disappointed. If you go in expecting Darrow and his usual shenanigans, you will be disappointed. But if you go in with an open mind, I think you'll have fun with it. I really enjoyed it. Next, I read My Best Friend's Exorcism by Grady Hendrix. This is one that I've seen everywhere for years. It's always caught my eye just because of the cover. And so this month I finally decided to pick it up for spooky season. This is pretty much following these two best friends, Gretchen and Abby, and after a night of skinny dipping on drugs, Fun times, fun times. Gretchen begins to act a little bit different, and Abby begins to believe that she is possessed. Now, if you're a fan of like 80s nostalgia horror, I think that you would absolutely love this. If you like the new adaptation of It by Stephen King, if you like Stranger Things, I think this would definitely be right up your alley. There's a lot of 80s culture, 80s music, 80s in this book, and I had a lot of fun talking to my mom about the different things that I didn't necessarily understand, like the different product names or things like that. This does follow along the classic kind of possession horror movie, but I think that it's really special in the sense that Grady Hendrix writes teenage girls so well. We have a little bit of Mean Girls, or I guess Heather's action there. Abby and Gretchen, I was really surprised by the end of it how emotionally attached I was to their friendship. I was actually tearing up at the end, which was surprising to me in a horror book. I really enjoyed this one. I had a lot of fun with it. I think that if you're into, like I said, the 80s nostalgia horror, or if you're looking for something that's a little bit spoofy, kind of like the classic 80s movies, I think that you would really enjoy this. The light is changing. You never know which way it's gonna go. Next, I wrapped up the Inheritance cycle with Inheritance by Christopher Paolini. Here comes a huge ass truck. Wonderful. If you've been keeping up with the little reviews that I've been doing on this series, then you know that I was not the biggest fan of Brisinger, but I'm happy to say that Inheritance was fucking awesome. It was such a great ending. It was not an ending that I was expecting to have for the series. It was really more on the bittersweet side, which I definitely was not expecting for some reason. I was expecting, you know, tie it up in a little bow and be happy, and I was going to be fine with that. But it was really bittersweet. It made me even more excited for Murtagh to come out, which at this point in time when I'm filming this, Murtagh is already out. I already have my copy, and I am so excited to read it. Because it's the ending of a series, one of my favorite things about the ending of a series is being able to look back at where we started, where we came from, how all of this began, and start to kind of unravel how our characters have changed, how our plot has developed, you know, all of this stuff, just being able to have the whole picture, and I loved it. This is a very classic story. It's very beloved by a lot of people, and I really, really enjoyed the ending. Much more action-packed than any of the previous 3 books, and previously my favorite was Eldest, and now I think my favorite is Inheritance. Right when you started the book, we were going and we didn't stop until the end, and I really appreciated that after the struggle that was Brisinger. I'm gonna have like a sunburn by the time I finish this video. This is what happens when you try to use natural light. The sun is moving and now it's blinding me. Okay, so next I started the Farseer trilogy by Robin Hobb, which I'm so freaking excited about. I read Assassin's Apprentice in the month of October and I absolutely loved it. You know, I was so hesitant to go into this series because so many people, pretty much everybody's like, oh, you know, like the Farseer trilogy, we all know it sucks, but you gotta read the Farseer trilogy to get through to the rest of the series. And I loved this book. I absolutely loved it. We're following this young boy named Fitz, who is the bastard son of the king in waiting, and he gets sent by his maternal family to be taken care of by his father's family. So he's like the royal bastard. He's just come in and fucked everything up, right? And so in order to utilize the bastard, the king begins to have him trained as an assassin. If you're wanting like a super fast-paced assassins book, this is not it. This is not the book. But if you really like that slice of life, really deep character building, really difficult moments, exploring like the human condition, this is so freaking good. Fitz, I've seen described as whiny. I've seen him described as like pathetic. I don't think he's any of those things. I think that Fitz is a boy who we're just gonna keep like scooching around trying to find a good place. Because that's blinding me. Okay, he's been dealt a shit hand in a game that he didn't even know that he was supposed to be playing, and I absolutely loved him. He is a very depressed and sad character, but I feel like he has every single right to be. I just loved watching him deal with it. I love the relationships that he made with different people, different animals. I loved the good moments, the moments where you're just like, yes, great, Fitz is getting a win, you know, which are few and far between. The only kind of con that I have for this book is that there are so many bad things that happen to Fitz. I was a little bit less emotionally invested at that point because I think I was just emotionally exhausted. This is also a book that I really had to read very slowly. I had to take my time with it, not only because of the emotional impact of the book, but also because Hobbs' writing is so beautiful. It's so fantastic. It's so profound and lovely. There are so many different quotes just about life, about human nature. I was just highlighting and underlining and commenting on, and I just wanted to take a second to digest it. And I'm currently reading book 2 right now, so that's exciting. Next, I read The Fork, the Witch, and the Worm by Christopher Paolini. This is the kind of short story collection, novella type of thing after the Inheritance cycle. I enjoyed this one. There's not really much I can say about this book because it is so short and you really have to read the Inheritance cycle to to understand what the hell's going on, even where we're at. But I do think as a kind of post-series check-in with the characters, it really, really worked for me and I really enjoyed it. It was really nice checking in with some of the characters after the events of Inheritance, so I really liked it. And the last novel that I have to talk about before I get into my manga is Misery by Stephen King, which I have a full spoiler-free reading vlog for. I have read one Stephen King before and attempted 2 other ones and have not really enjoyed my time with it, and I feel like perhaps it was the age that I was reading them. I tried to read The Shining in middle school. I read Carrie when I was like 18, 19, and I tried to read it at the same 18, 19 age range, and it just didn't work for me. I was just super bored. But I picked up Misery because this seems like a book that is universally enjoyed, at least loved by a lot of people. I am one of those people who absolutely loved it. Misery is a story following this man named Paul Sheldon. He gets into a car accident during a massive snowstorm and is rescued by this woman named Annie Wilkes. Annie takes him back to her house and proceeds to torture him, pretty much. Paul is an author, and he is the author of one of Annie's favorite book series, the Misery series. I can't remember exactly what the series title is. It doesn't really matter. But at the end of the last book, Paul makes a decision concerning one of the characters that Annie does not like, and Annie wants him to rewrite it. This is a very isolated story. Most of the time, we're only following Annie and Paul. For the majority of the book, we are inside Annie's house. Most of the time, inside a specific room in Annie's house. Because of the isolation, it's a very psychological book. We are constantly in Paul's head as he's trying to work out what's going on, what he should do, what's going to happen, like how the police are going to react to finding his car, who's going to find his car, what are they going to do. I absolutely loved this book. I absolutely love this book, and it has since then launched me into a mystery thriller horror mood, which is insane because I've not been in one of those in years. Yeah, I want to pick up more by Stephen King, which I never thought that I would ever say in my entire life. And the last 2 things that I have to talk about are my mangas. I read Vinland Saga Omnibus 4. This marks the end of the first arc of Vinland Saga, which I am excited about because Thorfinn, as our main character, we get a lot of him seeking vengeance. Thorfinn wants to get revenge against the man who killed his father. But as Thorfinn has grown up, this has been his main motivation. This is the only thing that he's been focusing on. So there's this huge question of who is Thorfinn outside of this revenge? Who is he as a human being? What are his interests? What does he want to do with his life? And I feel like we're finally going to be getting those answers. Excited about that, and I really loved this volume. I also read volumes 10 through 13 of One Piece, and I'm feeling the same types of feelings for One Piece as I am about Vinland Saga. Since I finished the 12th volume, I am now in the 2nd saga of One Piece, and I feel like there for a while it was getting a little bit repetitive. You know, we go to this village, the villagers need help, we help the villagers, we save the day, and we bop to the next village. That's pretty much what we've been doing for the past 12 volumes. I felt like it was getting a tad bit repetitive, and I was getting a little bit, not necessarily bored, but I was like, I know where this is going. Like, there's no reason for it not to go this way because it's been this way like consistently. But as we've gotten into the 2nd saga of One Piece, we're finally on the Grand Line, and things are starting to become more like Gulliver's Travels. The ocean is not right on the Grand Line. The islands are not right on the Grand Line. Nothing that you expect to happen is going to happen on the Grand Line, and it's all super surprising, and the people that we've met so far are really exciting. And I now know why people say, oh, well, you just have to get through the first 12 volumes and then One Piece gets really good. Well, it's really good now. So those are the 12 things that I read in the month of October. Let me know down below what you read in October. What was your favorite thing? Let me know if you've read any of these books. Let me know if you've enjoyed them. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you have a fantastic day, and I will see you next time.